Hey guys, and welcome to Should You Buy It, where all we do is talk a little bit about the game and whether or not we think it's worth the cost.
In this episode, we'll be revisiting Rust, the survival open-world PvP game where your goal is to survive and thrive in a world where everyone else is trying to murder you and claim your stuff for their own.
So the first question that we always cover in these videos is what stage of development is the game in? And in this case, Rust is in full release and available on PC for $40. There are plans for a console release very soon though, and we are assuming it will carry a similar price tag for those consoles.
So what even is Rust? Well, in Rust, your primary goal is to survive. And to do this, you will need to build a base and maintain your thirst and hunger, all while protecting yourself from other players and NPC dangers. In some cases, you will encounter players that have better weapons and armor than you do. But since Rust is a winner-take-all game, if you do manage to defeat these players, you are able to take everything that they are carrying for yourself.
So you begin the game with nothing more than a rock and a torch. Over time though, through gathering resources and plundering loot from other players, you will eventually make your way up to crafting guns, armor, and more modern tools and weaponry. This includes things like turrets or armored walls or armored doors, as well as things like rocket launchers and even much more.
Rust also requires you to craft a base to defend your resources and tools. The better your base design, the more likely you are to successfully fend off attackers or players that want to rob you of everything that you own. For example, a well-designed base will require invaders to spend much more time and much more resources to raid you, which will hopefully deter them from even wanting to do so. And if you're lucky, maybe they'll just choose to raid your annoying neighbors instead.
So you will encounter many players in your journey through Rust. Most of these players will be either very hostile or basically just kill you on sight and take everything you're carrying. Rarely do you come across a friendly player who wants to help you or do anything good, although that can happen, as it did happen to me and Bagul while we were playing. The majority of player interaction in this game consists of toxic banter or all-out combat, and that combat has a very steep learning curve because none of the weapons have crosshairs or hit markers to aid you in any way.
Rust also has a large variety of servers where your experience can greatly differ. For example, there are modded servers strictly devoted to combat or racing, while at the same time, there are others that slightly tweak or adjust the base game by limiting aspects such as team member count or resource gain.
So how does this game make you feel when you play? Well...
Hell yeah. You get killed? Slingers slash. Just run to where I'm at so I can kill you. Oh.
So yeah, it can be a little brutal, but this is not necessarily a bad thing, as it was a clear intention by the developers that this game is supposed to cause a large amount of frustration or anger, because without it, you're not able to get as much enjoyment out of being on that flip side of the coin. I mean, looting or killing other players is just so much more fun when you know that they're becoming infuriated because they're the ones losing items instead of you.
Rust can also feel like a major time commitment, especially on a vanilla server. Expect to put at least 3 to 5 hours a day, if not more, into the game, as even when you are away and not connected, other players can still kill you and take everything that you have. Again, your body and your base do not leave the server when you're offline, leaving yourself vulnerable to attack at any time.
So the gathering system is pretty simplistic in Rust, in the sense that you basically just chop wood, mine stone, mine metal, and you use those base components to craft basically everything in the game. But in order to research and unlock those new technologies, you really need to gather a resource called scrap, which is located in a high traffic player area. This can be frustrating at times, but also very rewarding, because player versus player combat can result in major gains for both you and your team members.
We do feel that it is important to reiterate that this game is intended to stir your emotions, which usually results in a toxic server community. Therefore, we recommend maybe playing with friends, if at all possible, as trying to find players to team up with on the server can often result in getting backstabbed or betrayed. There is no worse feeling than finding yourself thrown back to square one, waking up on the beach with nothing more than a rock and a torch all over again.
Alright, now let's move into the pros of the game. So one of the things that was great about the game is that it was one of the most polished survival games that we've ever really played. It really felt smooth and solid all the way through. Next, we really like the fact that Rust rewards you for being skilled at this game. If you practice and get good at it, you're really going to feel that as you continue to play. After that, we have that building feels really complex, but also really simple at the same time. Like you could pick it up and just get going, or you could build a very complex base that's very secure. We also felt that it was really nice that there was a wide weapon variety. You could play with a rock and a stick, but also an AK-47 in the same game. Rust also felt like it had a really solid modding community. You could play on all kinds of different servers with all kinds of customization options. Finally, we felt that Rust was very action-packed. There was just always something we could be doing, and there was always someone that wanted to kill us around every corner.
Now, let's move on to the cons. First off would be the fact that the community in this game was beyond toxic, especially with the game's open mic feature. Most people were rude and derogatory toward other players, which is honestly expected from this type of game. Next would be the fact that this game is inherently beginner unfriendly. The server may be called a noob friendly server, but you better bet your last nickel that people will still camp your doors and teabag your body at every opportunity. And finally, there were a few minor bugs. Nothing game breaking or anything, just small things such as getting an arrow stuck in a chicken that I couldn't get back.
So when we rate games, we want to get 1 hour of enjoyment out of every $1 spent. So for this game in particular, we would want to get 40 hours of enjoyment out of the $40 that we spent. And after putting 24 played hours into this game, we give it 8 out of 10 potatoes.
Yeah, the game is definitely solid, and we would even go as far to say that it is a staple in the PvP survival genre. Rust is going to make you angry, and the community will trigger you, but in the end, getting hours and hours of enjoyment from this title is all but guaranteed if you are into this style of game. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe if you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.